Good morning. I am your host Slim bin Muhammad Rafi, and this is my YouTube channel Zamir Universal. Today I am going to, in this vlog, talk to you about my concern as a senior citizen, as a loyal and very concerned Pakistani who has the opportunity to be trained and live abroad, but my heart beats with every Pakistani who lives here on this planet. Now, I have termed this situation, the current situation in Pakistan, which is frustrating everybody and putting, I think, almost everybody in deep depression because of the situation which is out of control, it seems to be everybody. And everybody, I mean everybody, whether it's all parties, all political parties, our establishment, and even at this stage, our judiciary, intellectuals, and common man in the street. And I've called this thing because I want to give an analysis which will be really out of line from what the other peoples have been saying. I'm talking about the conventional journalists of this country, which there are a lot of questions about their integrity, about their loyalty, about how saleable they are, about all kinds of terms which have been used for them, lafafa journalist and all, tabka malamtiya, all sorts of adjectives which in my view are, if the other party will think they have really earned these abuses. But to me, I think unless there is an element of forgiveness, then you cannot expect to bring any change in people. However ugly their faces are, however ugly their souls are, how easily they are saleable, however their dirty past is, I think you have to show a very broad chest and an open heart to take them in and reform them. I have called this situation as because the term analysis does not suit it, because it's a serious situation at this moment, and I've called it a postmortem. I've called it a postmortem of current situation in Pakistan, and I'm starting and take you with me. Let us take with Bajwa doctrine first, as his role seems to be that of a bad, ambitious commander who gathered hodgepodge of defamed politicians from 15 political parties, and those political parties had, majority of them had convicts. They had to go to jail. They were facing long-term jails about money laundering, about all kind of proven cases against them in NAB, in FIA, and in other parts of the judiciary.
किसी ने कहा था कि नवाज शरीफ और उसके खानदान ने लाहौर के अंदर, लाहौर में नहीं, रायवन में जिधर वो शिफ्ट हुए हैं, उधर उनका एक इजलास हुआ और उस इजलास के अंदर उन लोगों ने फैसला किया कि हमें सौहार्दों जैसे 20 साल के लिए हुकूमत करना है। यानी उन लोगों ने यह नहीं कहा कि जियाउल हक जैसे 11 साल के लिए हुकूमत करना है। उन लोगों ने कहा कि हमें 20 साल के लिए सौहार्दों जैसे हुकूमत करनी है। और आप लोग जानते हैं कि सियासत के अंदर सौहार्दों के पूरे खानदान ने, जो इकोनॉमी के कमांडिंग हाइट्स थे, वो पूरा काबू कर लिए थे। तो इनका मकसद था कि हम 20 साल के लिए पॉलिटिकल पावर चाहते हैं और हम फाइनेंशियल पावर चाहते हैं। और उन लोगों ने कहा कि हमें खतरा 5 तरीके से हो सकता है। हमें खतरा ऑपोजिशन यानी पीपल्स पार्टी की तरफ से हो सकता है, नंबर 1। नंबर 2, हमें खतरा प्रेसिडेंट की तरफ से हो सकता है, क्योंकि उन जमानों में 8वीं तरमीम थी जिसके तहत प्रेसिडेंट हुकूमतों को हटा सकता था। नंबर 3, उन लोगों ने कहा कि हमें खतरा ये आर्म फोर्सेस की तरफ से हो सकता है, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान के सियासत के अंदर कई अरसे, तवील अरसे के लिए फौज का एक रोल या किरदार रहा है। चौथा, उन लोगों ने कहा कि हमें खतरा अदलिया से हो सकता है। 5वां, उन लोगों ने कहा कि हमें खतरा प्रेस की तरफ से हो सकता है। तो इन लोगों ने ये 5 पॉइंट प्रोग्राम बनाए कि पाकिस्तान का जो तस्वर कायदे आजम ने बरसगीर के मुसलमानों को दिया था, उसको खत्म करने के लिए और अपना जो विजन था या ताबीर था वो ले आने के लिए इनकी कोशिश थी। कोई यकीन नहीं कर सकता था। मगर अगर आप 2.5 साल को देखें, इन लोगों ने खास कानून बनाए कि चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर वही सुनेगा जो सैफुर रहमान कहता है, उसको प्राइम मिनिस्टर सेक्रेटेरिएट में दाएं। चले, जो कुछ हमारे साथ हुआ वो तो आप सबके सामने एक खुली कहानी है, तो मैं उसमें नहीं जाने चाहती हूँ। मगर आपने देखा कि हमारे खानदान में किसी को नहीं छोड़ा। मेरे माँ के खिलाफ केसेस, मेरे ऊपर केसेस, जरदारी साहब के ऊपर केसेस, जरदारी साहब के बाप के ऊपर केसेस, उसके भाई के ऊपर, ब्रदर इन लॉ के ऊपर, हर एक के ऊपर केसेस। हमारे इंफॉर्मेशन सेक्रेटरी, पर्सनल सेक्रेटरी, पॉलिटिकल सेक्रेटरी, नौकर, जो भी हमारे इर्द गिर्द हैं, उनके खिलाफ किए। ये तो आप लोगों की दुआ है कि अल्लाह ताला ने हमें यह हिम्मत दी कि हम मुकाबला कर रहे हैं।
But they were looking for a soulless man who could sell his soul for cheap and who could even sell his religion, and that was a Maulvi. And as usual, the clergy has played a dirty role from the time of Tsars in Russia to the present times, and that was, without naming him, everybody knows that man, Maulana Fazlur Rahman. Now, very promises were made to these 15 parties, from which this man, this ugly man, I would say the devil, because he has really destroyed the peace in Pakistan, destroyed, I think, a common man in the street and made him commit suicide and go up to starvation, and he couldn't care less. How he will face his Creator God Almighty once he is in the grave? I don't want to say, as a Muslim, I only say that may Allah Subhanahu forgive this man and straighten his path. But he has to take a complete U-turn to regret. That's between him and his God, so I'm not going to make any judgment on him. Now, promises were made by the person whose doctrine is famous to divide booty proportionately after victory. I mean, after destroying, in their word, which was the main threat to them, was a chap, a sportsman, a very inexperienced, very easily, I think he could be carried away. He trusted everyone, and then I think looking back, I think it's his fault that he let his government taken away from him by the people who were very close to him. So he had a poor selection. He could not foresee the treachery, he could not foresee the people, the backstabbers who were all around him. Now, the booty promises made after the victory, mean after the destruction or elimination of Imran Khan and his party and his supporters, that was the promise made to those people who were gathered by this doctrine, or by this person in the doctrine, who is now long retired, but he still does not shut his mouth, and he is not silent. He is not ashamed. He has no regrets. He seems to be proud, and he keeps, I think, talking in interview after interview, all contradictory, to try to now pretend that he is the most innocent person on earth. Unfortunately, his name will go into the name of those people who destroyed this country. Now, after victory, I go on to the part 2, because this what I'm talking to, I've also in a thread in the tweets, I have sent this, my intention is only to
मगर फिर आपने देखा लगारी हमारा दोस्त नहीं, हम उसके हक में क्यों बोलें? उसके हक में नहीं बोल रहे, मगर हम आपको ये प्लान का इंकशाफ कर रहे हैं कि इस प्लान के तहत उन लोगों ने नेक्स्ट प्रेसिडेंसी का 8वीं तरमीम खत्म कर दिया। उसके बाद उनने अदलिया के ऊपर जो किया, पाकिस्तान के तारीख में आपको यह नहीं मिलेगा कि हुकूमत बसेस ले आए और बसेस के अंदर लोग जा करके अदालत के ऊपर हमला करें। एक अदालत के कमरे के अंदर जज बैठा है, प्राइम मिनिस्टर के खिलाफ रिश्वत की सबूत ले रहा है, उसके साथ और जजेस बैठ रहे हैं। इस्लामाबाद के अंदर डिप्लोमेटिक कम्युनिटी है, इतनी स्ट्रिक्ट सिक्योरिटी है, इस्लामाबाद के अंदर लोगों को जमा करना मुश्किल होता है, क्योंकि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एवेन्यू इतना बड़ा है कि एक मजमा करना और से, मगर नहीं, बस इसके अंदर लोगों को लाया गया और फिर टेलीविजन पर दिखाया गया। ये भी नहीं कि अंधेरे में करें, ये कि बदतमीजी और बदतमीजी दुनिया के सामने इंसल्ट करने के लिए कि आप कर क्या सकते हैं। हाँ, हम कानून को फाड़ रहे हैं, मगर आप कर क्या सकते हैं? लोगों को बेबस बनाने चाहते हैं और उनको कह सकते हैं कि हम कहने चाहते हैं कि हम सब कुछ हैं, और ये उनकी गलत फहमी है। दुनिया के सामने टेलीविजन पर दिखाएं कि ये हमारे वजीर हैं, काबीना के अरकान अंदर जा रहे हैं, क्राउड को कह रहे हैं चलो चलो, आप देख सकते हैं वीडियो के अंदर इशारा कर रहे हैं कि आप अंदर आए, और फिर चीफ जस्टिस को भागना पड़ा, जजेस को भागना पड़ा, और किसी को कोई सजा मिल नहीं सका। इसलिए हुकूमत तो अपने खिलाफ गवाही पेश तो नहीं करेगी। फिर उनके अपने पपेट को प्रेसिडेंट बनाए, जस्टिस तारर को। एक चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर था, उसने जस्टिस तारर के नामजदगी के कागजात को मुस्तरद किया, क्योंकि उसने कहा कि आपने ये तकरीर में इंटरव्यू दिया है जिसमें कहा गया है कि जज दहशतगर्द है। उसने कहा हाँ, मैंने ये इंटरव्यू दिया है। तो जब उसने कन्फ्रंट किया कि आपने तकबीर रिसाले को ये इंटरव्यू दिया है जिधर आपने कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट किया है, और उसने सबके सामने तस्दीक की।
See if there is a chance for reconciliation, if there is a chance ultimately to sit around the table, and no matter how diverse the parties are, how diverse their views are, how distant they are from each other, how much they hate each other, and the animosity amongst them, they can still, final stage is to talk. Even the first World War and the Second World War, the end was on the table. And so was, I think, the fall of Dhaka. Although 90,000 of our people were taken as prisoners in India, but the final resolution was on the table, which is the Shimla Accord. And the Indira Gandhi and Zulfi Bhutto, they were the two parties who negotiated that. So finally, it's the round table to negotiate and settle. Now, how can fighting on multiple fronts help achieve victory? And that's what the Bajwa doctrine led this, the government, or let the establishment, let the judiciary, let the politicians, let, I think, a lot of, the anchors and media tycoons follow that. Was there any hope for victory? I'm sure in the eyes of the Bajwa, the devil, there must have been. Otherwise, he would have taken a U-turn and be regretful and apologize from the nation and peacefully take his family and go and retire. As a student of history, perhaps it won't be difficult to answer, but as a politician or as a bad war strategist, one won't be able to answer correctly that if you open multiple fronts with all the institutions, including judiciary, including politicians, including opposition, including general public, and even, I think, your friends, international, tried friends abroad, then you usually cannot win. This is precisely what is happening at present in Pakistan. And I have given an abbreviation of PMCSP, which is the Postmortem of Current Situation in Pakistan. So this, when you see this abbreviation or a title, you will understand what I'm talking about. Now, after selling this thing, that how this thing all started and who gathered them all and what was to gain when you open so many multiple fronts. I'm really trying to bring out that what mistakes we made, and I'm talking across party lines, across institutions, and without putting my finger and putting a blame on one institution or a party, let alone that be intelligence agency or establishment or politicians or judges, or journalists or these electronic media persons. And I think, in my view, the regime change, after regime change, multiple fronts were open. Number one, and in my view, that was a big mistake. And as a war strategist or as a student of history, and it's taught, there are many history books in all the libraries of the army, and so are in the civil, big national libraries. One was nitpicking of opposition party, their members, to break their will and to disanchorate the party. Well, this was a wishful thinking. The multiple FIRs were initiated, again, it was a mistake. Torture was used by the police, by judiciary, orders by FIA using their name, IB and ISI. Law and order collapsed. Economy collapsed. Foreign relations stood still, and there was no foreign policy. A very young boy, completely naive, with no knowledge of even borders, was made the foreign minister as a part of how to divide the booty amongst themselves. So when you have a bunch of crooks gathered together under an umbrella, under the garb of so-called assembly, so you can understand that it was not his fault. He was just not a fit for the foreign relations of a country which was a nuclear power, once respected by not only the Muslim world but in the rest of the world. So what went on was that the cost of living went sky high, unbearable, intolerable, and it hit it skyrocket. Suicide and starvation rates went to its peak. Dollar touched the highest thing. IMF, World Bank, and all others institutions which lend money like Paris Club, like Asian Development Bank, they all sort of turned their backs towards Pakistan because of this situation where the multiple fronts were opened by this doctrine and the people who are helping and carrying out that doctrine further. Now, with this, if at any stage, now I take to the part 4 of the thread which I have already said produced in the Twitter, and is what it did is, what this doctrine, when open multiple fronts did is, it became serious and dangerous. Because when you open multiple fronts, it is very hard to sustain and achieve victory. Chief Election Commissioner and media ban and demolition squads which destroyed the gates and homes of opposition leaders and judges in the middle of the night without taking care or having any respect for Chadar and Chardiwari or the privacy of women and children. Though there was no regard for even elderly people. They were made bare and their clothes were taken off to humiliate them. Then they were tortured, and then efforts were made to conquest the highest judiciary, that was the Supreme Council of Pakistan, by dividing the judges and then ruling. And
तो फिर चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर ने कहा कि आई हैव नो चॉइस और आपके पेपर्स मैं रिजेक्ट करता हूं। क्या हुआ? तारर गया? नो, तारर प्रेसिडेंट बन गया, चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर गया। जो सच के लिए बोलता है, जो कानून को बुलंद रखता है, जो पाकिस्तान का सोचता है, जो पाकिस्तान के मेहनत कश अवाम का सोचता है, उनको निशाना बनाया जाता है। प्रेसिडेंट चले गए, उसके बाद इन लोगों ने, जहांगीर करामत ने तो नवाज शरीफ को बचाया। जब प्रेसिडेंट के साथ उनकी मुहाज अराई हो रही थी तो उस वक्त चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ बाहर मुल्क थे। दोनों प्रेसिडेंट और प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने उनको फोन किया कि आप आ जाएं, कुछ हमारा मसला यहाँ चल रहा है। चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ आ गए, दोनों से मिले। फिर उसने कहा कि देखें, ये मामला इतना बढ़ गया है कि मेरा मशवरा है कि आप 1 हफ्ता का इंटरवल कर लें, क्योंकि अगर 1 हफ्ते का आप इंटरवल करेंगे तो फिर जरा जज्बात ठंडे हो जाएंगे और ठंडे मिजाज के साथ हम मामले को आगे ले जाएंगे। मगर उस 1 हफ्ते के अंदर नवाज शरीफ ने ब्रीफ केसेस चलाया और पता नहीं और कुछ क्या किया और मामला तब्दील हो गया। मगर वो 1 हफ्ता नहीं मिलता तो नवाज शरीफ की हुकूमत नहीं होती। जहांगीर करामत नवाज शरीफ को हटाने चाहता था तो उस वक्त हटा देता। जहांगीर करामत को मार्शल लॉ लगा देता तो पहले लगाता और फिर बाद में नवाज को कहता, मगर वो कुछ करने नहीं चाहता था। उसने एक नेवल फंक्शन में वही बात की जो पाकिस्तान के सहाफी कर रहे हैं। उसने कहा हुकूमत को एडहॉकिज्म खत्म करना चाहिए, हुकूमत को इंतकामी कार्रवाई खत्म होनी चाहिए और हुकूमत को हुकूमत करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हुकूमत की गैर मौजूदगी में पाकिस्तान के अंदर और बाहर एक बहरान पैदा हो रहा है। और इस वक्त पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो बहरान है, तो कॉलेज जहांगीर करामत, वो पाकिस्तान के एक्सटर्नल थ्रेट से भी ज्यादा है। उस पर कहने के लिए कि आपने क्यों कहा, ऐसे राय क्यों आपने दी, उसको सैक किया गया और अनसेरेमोनियसली सैक्ड कि हमें कुव्वत बर्दाश्त नहीं।
Getting the ruling according to what they wanted. And that was not a one single institution which wanted. There was really the ambitious politicians who had frustrated, been banned for life, but deep down in their head, they were still ruling the country, because it's hard to come out of that, dream and trance when you have ruled a country for 30 years with, I think, iron hand, with all the money you had, with every evil tactic you can adopt, by murdering, by collecting them at Changa Manga, by allotting them roads and green belts, by burning the record of LDA, by burning the record of CDA, by you just carried out your will without check by anybody. So when you have even conquered the Supreme Court in Sajad Ali Shah, when full bench was hearing, then you can see that there are no walls, no barriers. You become so brave, you're so strong that no Hitler, no Pharaoh, no Namrud can match you. So the present day, even to compare with Sicilian Mafia, to my view, will be wrong. And that will not help to reconcile. And because the person who did that, it also belonged to Pakistan, he was not a foreigner. Now, then, when you refuse to provide funds and security to hold elections in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab, and also have the assembly to enact bills and to try to take the powers of the Chief Justice Supreme Court by constitutional, by breaking the constitution, by bulldozing the constitution, by illegally gathering about 40 out of 300 and odd members, and not a single minister, not a single person who matters. And he signed on that resolution and then condemned the Supreme Court decision, sent a bill to the president with absolutely no justification to try and take the powers of the Chief Justice. It's the same constitution of the country which all these members of the parliament took oath to protect. The Prime Minister took the oath, the President took the oath, the Chief Justice took the oath, the Chief of Army Staff took the oath. In other words, every person who matters, every institution takes this oath to protect that constitution, and that's the very constitution that came under attack, and it still goes on. This attack is still out there, and every day we hear something ugly and ugliest and ugliest. So this saga is continuing, and my intention in this doing the postmortem is to see and find a solution. Is there a solution? Who should back down? The Legislative Assembly, the government, and which has already in 12 months failed to do any constructive thing, anything, not a single thing they have done they can be proud of, except, I think, dividing people, and that divide has got widened and widened and widened. When you compare it with Narendra Modi across the border, I think you can multiply with 1,000 the way they have divided, at least in my view, our armed forces, the most loved forces. People felt proud to stand there with the uniform, to have their pictures taken and selfies. And now they have, what they've done is, they have created such a divide that even March the 23rd, which all the nation used to look forward to listen to national song and see our soldiers in uniform, Air Force people, and they were seeing the flying past, see our all the ammunition displayed, our missiles.
उसके बाद ऑफ कोर्स प्रेस के खिलाफ शुरू हो गए जंग। अच्छा, प्रेस के खिलाफ आप देखें कि पहले मुस्लिम अखबार को इश्तिहार नहीं दिए, इश्तिहारबाजी खत्म कर लिए, मुस्लिम अखबार बंद हो गया। उसके बाद उन लोगों ने जंग पब्लिकेशंस को निशाना बनाया कि अगर आप इन 14 सहाफियों को निकालेंगे तो आप अच्छे लोग हैं, मगर अगर आप उनको, क्या कहा गया कि आप 14 सहाफियों को निकालें और साथ साथ आप नवाज शरीफ और उनके खानदान के रिश्वत के बारे में नहीं लिखेंगे, आप गवर्नेंस रूल के बारे में नहीं लिखेंगे, आप पीपल्स पार्टी को प्रोमिनेंट कवरेज नहीं देंगे, यानी बड़े कॉलम्स वो नहीं देंगे, अंदर देंगे, इस किस्म की, और बाकी जो आपकी मर्जी। और जब जंग अखबार ने इनकार किया तो कहा फिर हम कहेंगे कि आप इनकम टैक्स के चोर हैं। और जब उन लोगों ने कहा हम अदालत जाएंगे, उसमें सैफ रहमान को इतनी जरूरत हुई कि उसने कहा कि कोई जज का बाप भी तुम्हें मदद नहीं करेगा। ये उसका, जब ये सब रिकॉर्ड की बातें हैं और ये सब 2.5 साल के अंदर हुआ है, तो मुस्लिम, जंग, न्यूज, उसके बाद फ्रंटियर पोस्ट, उसके ऊपर ड्रग का चार्ज लगा दिया। 50 लाख की गाड़ी चला रहा है और उसके ऊपर लगाया इल्जाम कि तुम 10 लाख के ड्रग्स की कारोबार कर रहे हैं। फिर फ्रंटियर पोस्ट के बाद फ्राइडे टाइम्स। और किस किस्म की गिरफ्तारी कि बीवियों के सामने खावंदों को मार करके गिरफ्तार करते हैं। ये क्या इंसानियत है?
Our tanks, our soldiers, and our commandos, that was cancelled because there was so much hatred, there was so much, I think, anger that I think the cause was the same, the regime change. And for whatever reason this was done, what booty which they had promised to divide, there was no booty. Until now, which 12 months have passed, there is no booty that they can divide amongst themselves. Now, the doctrine of fighting on multiple fronts is now in stalemate. It's in stalemate at all fronts. It has caused serious divisions, resulted amongst armed forces and general public. It has caused the election commission to become exposed, and his partisanship has become very, very clear, which again is very, very dangerous. The caretaker governments are acting like they are elected opposition and taking actions on taking decision which is not in their demand. They were, I think, nominated by the election commission only to facilitate elections, but unfortunately you can see the result is that there is lawlessness in every street. And in the recent 2 or 3 months, the thefts, even in streets where it has been never heard that the batteries have been removed from the cars inside the garages, the decks have been removed, the fences have been removed from the most secure bungalows and arts, and people have been insulted, rapes, thefts, murders, and because there is no police, there is no system left, there is no governance, because all those people who you want to use to implement law and order were sent to for vengeance, sent to subdue your opponents. I don't understand when you do this thing. Then, if your own country is your opponents, if your own fellow, I think, citizens are opponents because they disagree with you, with the way you think, the way you feel you can govern and do things, then you don't, I think, need enemies across the border to go and fight with them and conquer them. So, my take on this is that since you have all this doctrine, or the people who are behind this doctrine have even now not spared the constitution, they have attacked the constitution from left and right, from above and below. Also judiciary, same, from 4-5 directions, their attacks on the Chief Justice Supreme Court. The economic situation is now out of control. It can compromise our security. You need money to buy diesel, to buy petrol, to buy bullets, to buy bombs, to pay to the soldiers, to provide them food and transport. All these things will be compromised. Pay them salaries so that they can send it to their home and their families. So we have come to that worst situation that our security has been compromised. Now, my take on this current stalemate is that the invisible powers, please, and I request please, without naming who that invisible powers may include, whether it is just the Chief of Army Staff or the DG of ISI, or it's the Prime Minister, or it's the remote control of Prime Minister sitting in London, or if there is so-called any plan, London plan, or I think Abu Dhabi or UAE plan or Saudi plan, whatever the plan is, for God's sake, please step in. Withdraw all forces and close all fronts. Gather all around a table, however difficult that may be. Nothing is impossible, and please start negotiations and hold elections countrywide for a happy ending. With this note, that you will please kindly listen to me and see my intention and sentiment. That is a sentiment carried by all intellectuals and by all concerned citizens, irrespective and across the party lines. And I thank you, and I hope, God, someone listening to this will take action. I beg leave.
ज़मीर यूनिवर्सल टेलीविजन को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें, उसके बाद बेल बटन पे क्लिक करें और अपने कमेंट्स के सेक्शन में अपनी قیمتی جو خیالات کا اظہار ضرور کریں۔